Sean Allen, St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church, Seattle, Washington, Diocese of Olympia. Nelson Battle Arrington III, Christ Episcopal Church, Greenville, South Carolina, Diocese of Upper South Carolina. Judith C. Avery, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Mary Lou Barth, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Gretchen Batten, St. Mark's on the Mesa, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Diocese of the Rio Grande. Fred Blackman, St. Mary's Episcopal Church, Birmingham, Alabama, Diocese of Alabama. Brian K. Bowser, St. Luke's Episcopal Church, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, Diocese of Bethlehem. Kathleen K. Busey, St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church, Seattle, Washington, Diocese of Olympia. Christine C. Cook, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. David F. Cook II, St. Paul's Church, Ivy, Virginia, Diocese of Virginia. Mark Alexander Davis Craig, St. Clare Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Paul Sousa Davidson, St. Christopher's Episcopal Church, Perry, Georgia, Diocese of Atlanta. James Patrick DeBrock, Trinity Episcopal Church, Newtown, Connecticut, Episcopal Church in Connecticut. John Dentone, St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church, Poway, California, Diocese of San Diego. Craig Dickey, Christ Episcopal Church, Tyler, Texas, Diocese of Texas. Eric D. Donner, St. Mark's Episcopal Cathedral, Seattle, Washington, Diocese of Olympia. Roseanne Evans, St. Philip's Episcopal Church, Nashville, Tennessee, Diocese of Tennessee. Allison H. Fresher, St. John's Episcopal Church, Essex, Connecticut, the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. Michael Gabor, St. Michael's and All Angels, Peoria, Illinois, Quincy, Anglican Church of North America. Catherine Wilson Garner, Grace Episcopal Church, Alvin, Texas, Diocese of Texas. Timothy G., St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, Saratoga, California, Diocese of El Camino Real. Aubrey Lee Harris, Jr., All Angels Episcopal Church, Eatonton, Georgia, Diocese of Atlanta. Charles Huddleston Heaton, Jr., Church of the Nativity, Huntsville, Alabama, Diocese of Alabama. Jennifer Marie Hill, St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church, Titusville, Florida, Diocese of Central Florida. Glenn Paul Hallman, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Jonathan Hyland, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Fairfield, Connecticut, the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. Douglas Scott Johnson, Good Shepherd Episcopal Church, Lexington, Connecticut, Diocese of Lexington. Paul Russell Johnson, St. Luke's Episcopal Church, Jamestown, New York, Diocese of Western New York. Laurie E. Cantner, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Linda Parlin Klimek, St. Clare of Assisi Episcopal Church, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Diocese of Michigan. Evelyn Grace Nostman, Church of the Good Shepherd, Brentwood, Tennessee, Diocese of Tennessee. William Alfred Locke, St. Elizabeth's Episcopal Church, Delonga, Georgia, Diocese of Atlanta. Tamara Grace Lamb, Epiphany Parish of Seattle, Seattle, Washington, Diocese of Olympia. Carolyn Wendy Martucci, St. Margaret of Scotland Episcopal Church, Sarasota, Florida, Diocese of Southwest Florida. Kevin Stewart Mertens, Christ Episcopal Church, Greenville, South Carolina, Diocese of Upper South Carolina. Lori Moy, St. Mark's on the Mesa, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Diocese of the Rio Grande. Lester Martin Mutt, Jr., St. Margaret's Episcopal Church, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Diocese of Louisiana. Mary Lou Nieswander, All Saints Anglican, Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, Anglican Diocese of the South. Mary F. Nimsgern, St. James Episcopal Church, Marietta, Georgia, Diocese of Atlanta. Melinda Lou Richards, St. Michael's Episcopal Church, Cooksville, Tennessee, Diocese of Tennessee. Alan V. Riley, Epiphany Episcopal Church, Danville, Virginia, Diocese of Southern Virginia. Olin Saltus, Jr., St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, New York, New York, Diocese of New York. Ralph Seckinger, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Winter Haven, Florida, Diocese of Central Florida. Will Taylor, Holy Family, Humble, Texas, Diocese of Texas. Tim F.J. Tolson, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Ivy, Virginia, Diocese of Virginia. Paul Tones, St. Mark's Episcopal Cathedral, Seattle, Washington, Diocese of Olympia. Steve Van Allen, Trinity Episcopal Church, Covington, Kentucky, Diocese of Lexington. Dwight Barry Watts, Resurrection Anglican, Kinawana, British Columbia, Canada, Anglican Network in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fellows of the Guild, Class of 2020.